Whether or not you support the Voice referendum and the Indigenous voice, it's clear to everyone that the campaign is failing. It's doing incredibly badly in the polls. Lynn campaigners have done an extremely bad job selling it. This includes Anthony Albanese and Linda Burney, but it also includes other campaigners, non-politicians, such as Noel Pearson and Marsha Langton. Overall, the Yes campaign has done a bad job. Core to the problem is the Yes campaign has oscillated wildly between extremes. On the one hand, it sometimes accuses No campaigners and the No campaign of being racist or stupid, or at least using rhetoric that is racist or stupid. On the other hand, however, it's now oscillated to the other extreme, wheeling out vapid aphorisms as to why you should vote yes, replete with emotive blackmail and obvious swill. Noel Pearson has been at the centre of the campaign, and he has also done a bad job selling it. At the beginning, he was strident and aggressive. In my opinion, he looked like he was belittling the No campaign and No campaigners. For example, he said that Jacinta Price was, quote, caught in a vortex that reminds me of Pauline Hanson 26 years ago, end quote. He also said that she was, quote, trapped in a redneck celebrity vortex, end quote. Now this seems pretty insulting. It looks like he is putting Jacinta Price down. However, now Noel Pearson has done an about-face. He's decided to look like he is friendly. He's gone to the other end of the extreme, and is wheeling out the vapid emotional swill. Case in point was his address at the National Press Club. Let's listen to some highlights, or, well, some lowlights.
I want to talk with you, my fellow Australians, about the largest motive for voting yes, and why a voice is so important for Indigenous Australians. My speech is titled, For the Love of Country. I mean not love in a saccharine or sentimental way, nor romantic or patriotic love. I mean in the sense the late English philosopher Roger Scruton called oikophilia. Oikos, the Greek for home, and philia for love, the love of home. I have been on the road of this campaign, meeting tens and thousands of Australians in forums, around baggage carousels, at the train stations and shopping malls, town halls and shade of mango trees. And the hours, days and weeks are an emotional and pictorial kaleidoscope flashing through my mind. Beyond these details, I've come to see it is the love of our country that joins us all as Australians. I said it's not the same as patriotism, because there's nothing political about this love of country. Rather, it is about the wondrous land and seas. All of the nature and culture makes this country so beloved of us all, and its effect upon our souls. No Australian can fail to feel this in the presence of Uluru and a million other places each of us call our special homes. I say today, it is the love of country that is our driving motivation for the recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in the Australian Constitution. It is not love of each other that joins us, it is our mutual love of country that unites us. We don't need mutual affection to succeed in this referendum. We need to recognise our mutually shared love for the land.
Now, many of Noel Pearson's statements were completely meaningless. They tell us nothing. It's not even convincing. It's not an argument. It's just noise. It doesn't do anything to shift the needle because it doesn't tell us anything of substance. and it doesn't answer the core concerns that no campaigners and no supporters actually have. Noel Pearson's statements were ineffective. Australians have become so used to politicians misleading and gaslighting and manipulating them that these emotive arguments simply fail, or at least they should. And the polling suggests that this is what's happening. Noel Pearson did not address the concrete arguments about why people do not want the voice. Furthermore, people do not like to feel like they're being manipulated. And I personally felt like the speech was trying to manipulate me, trying to emotionally blackmail me into doing what Noel Pearson wants, without giving me an actual strong argument for why the voice is going to be beneficial and why the voice would not be harmful, as many people have quite rightly pointed out. Now, this might not have been Noel Pearson's intention. He might not have actually wanted to manipulate people. He might not have actually wanted to come off as emotive or emotional or perhaps vague or vapid or waffly. However, that's how I perceived it and how I felt when I listened to what Noel Pearson was saying. Now, others might have felt differently, but that was how I felt when I listened to it. And if I'm not alone on this, well, his statement is clearly going to backfire and make things worse for the Voice campaign. If anything, Noel Pearson's speech would make me more likely to vote no and less likely to vote yes. Furthermore, the polling also indicates a problem here. Redbridge polling, for example, indicates that the lack of details about the Voice are a major reason for voting no. Redbridge also suggests that a clear lack of concrete reason for voting yes is creating problems. There's a lot of dispersion across inchoate reasons for voting yes, and therefore there is a lack of message clarity in the yes campaign, whereas in the no campaign there are some significant concerns that have not been appropriately addressed. The waffle in speeches, such as Noel Pearson's, doesn't help, and if I'm feeling like I'm being manipulated, it's actively going to be harmful to the Voice referendum. A referendum, notably, is also very different from an election, and this is showing. In an election, Anthony Albanese or whoever is trying to win can win by demonizing their opponent, making their opponent look incompetent or evil or simply stupid. And that's to some extent what happened in the last federal election, where it became an election as much as anything about how people felt about Scott Morrison. People didn't necessarily focus on the details about specific policies. However, in a referendum, there is only one policy. It focuses attention. Anthony Albanese and the Yes campaign can't rely on tribalism and demonization to win in a referendum. They can't rely on personal attacks. People are going to focus on the details. And whereas in an election, there are myriad issues muddying the waters, distracting people, so that people can't focus too much attention on any one thing, in a referendum there is only one issue. And this focuses attention, so if people have concerns, it has salience in a referendum. And this means you get more pointed questions and more concerns about the exact details behind that policy. More concerns than you might see in an ordinary election. And that is in many cases actually quite justified, and people are doing their homework on what exactly they are voting for. Now, the slogan, "Don't know, vote no," has sometimes been maligned. However, the reason people don't know is because they haven't been provided the appropriate level of detail and granularity that they want. Or when they ask questions and raise concerns, there are sidesteps and obfuscations in response to them. If people ask a question and express a concern about treaty being a natural consequence of the Voice, well, that's sidestepped. Anthony Albanese claims that the referendum is not about treaty, even though people can see with their own eyes that it absolutely is. And the fact that the referendum focuses attention on that one issue clearly creates concerns and problems. Now, if the Yes camp wants to have any chance whatsoever, and at this point it is going to be incredibly difficult, it needs to truly, genuinely grapple with people's concerns. It can't sidestep them, it can't rely on emotive swill, it needs to actually address things with hard facts without looking like they are manipulating people. They can't talk down to people, they can't be emotive, they can't be manipulative. They need to address things in dry, concrete terms to make people feel like they're actually being treated like adults. Sidestepping concerns with emotive swill will not do the job. If people are concerned about treaty and can see with their own eyes that a Voice would increase the likelihood of a treaty and make the treaty worse if it were to come into being, then you need to address that with clear, precise facts, and you need to bring in safeguards and convince people that the concerns maybe aren't quite as great as they are. You need to make people feel reassured. You can't simply sidestep it. Fluff, misdirection, and obfuscation won't work. And that's exactly what we are seeing. Now at this point, I'm sure The Voice will fail. The polling looks like it will. However, we can't get complacent. And given the nature of this campaign, it is in fact important to send a message. It's important this referendum fails, and fails by a large margin, to send a message to the politicians. And it should fail because it is a bad product and it is being sold badly. And hopefully everyone gets out to vote and votes accordingly.